What if I told you that you don't need a single word to shift the dynamic between you and a woman? Just your gaze. Not a stare, not a challenge, but calm, stoic eye contact rooted in quiet confidence and silent strength. This isn't about manipulation, it's about presence. Because when you hold eye contact with unwavering focus, you send a signal that bypasses logic and speaks directly to instinct. Here's the truth. Confidence isn't loud. Real strength doesn't need to announce itself. And women, they feel that. Deeply. Right now, most men avoid the silence. They glance away. They over-explain. They chase. But the few who hold their gaze, quiet, still, grounded, those are the ones who lead. So if you're ready to stop reacting and start radiating, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. Because sometimes your presence speaks louder than words. Number 1, she looks cold, but that's not her truth. At first glance, she seems untouchable, an icy stare, a silence that dares you to speak first. But here's the paradox. The colder she appears, the more delicate her inner world often is. What you're seeing isn't the truth, it's her armor. Most men rush in to melt that ice with affection, compliments, or validation, only to be pushed away. Why? Because they make the first mistake, reacting instead of observing. What looks like emotional distance is usually a protective mask. Years of conditioning, through media, culture, and past wounds, have taught her that the one who chases first often loses. So she tests. She watches, she waits. And the man who remains calm, who doesn't flinch at her indifference, becomes the one who captures her attention. Stillness becomes power. The Stoics knew this long before it became modern dating advice. Control your impulses, and the world responds. Here's the mistake most men make. They assume the cold woman is simply uninterested, but that's surface thinking. The deeper truth hides in her subtle cues, the sudden softening in her voice, the way her eyes linger just a moment too long, the laughter that slips out when you're not trying to impress. These aren't random. These are cracks in the mask. But only a man who's truly present, who doesn't react to every flicker, will notice them. So what's the right move? Don't call it out. Don't say, "I saw you smile." Let her wonder if you noticed. Because when you don't react, she starts to question herself. She replays the moment in her mind. She becomes the seeker. In that silence, her curiosity grows. The more you chase her softness, the more she protects it. But if you sit calmly and allow her to reveal it on her own, you become the one man she doesn't have to guard herself against. That's when connection deepens. Not through pressure, but through presence. Let her open up in her own time. You don't need to chase what's real. You only need to be still enough to recognize it. Comment below. Stillness reveals more than words ever will. Number 2, she acts like she doesn't care. But that's the trap. She shrugs. She delays replies. She pulls away when you lean in. On the surface, it looks like she couldn't care less, like nothing you say or do really matters to her. But that's the trap. This isn't a lack of emotion. It's emotional strategy. A defense mechanism disguised as indifference. She wants you to believe she's detached, that your presence is optional. Not because you don't matter, but because you matter more than she's ready to admit. Her silence isn't absence, it's calculation. Her coldness isn't truth, it's a test. She wants to see what you'll do when your ego isn't fed, when attention isn't given, when validation isn't handed out like a reward. Most men panic here. They chase, explain, overcompensate. They try to fill the space she created with effort, hoping effort will equal affection. But they fail the test. Because the man who is truly grounded sees the game for what it is, and he doesn't play it. He doesn't react to the illusion of not being wanted. He knows presence isn't proven through pursuit, it's proven through poise. The woman who acts like she doesn't care is often the one who cares the most, but refuses to show it first. Why? Because the moment she shows her hand, she feels she's at risk of losing power. So she withholds, and in that withholding, she watches. But here's the twist. The trap only works on the man who needs her affection to feel whole. The Stoic man, he isn't seeking validation. He doesn't over-pursue what's uncertain. He remains still, composed, unmoved. And it's that restraint that creates real tension. Because emotional control is magnetic, and the one who feels most deeply but reveals the least, that's the one she can't stop thinking about. So when she acts like she doesn't care, don't try to fix it. Don't chase it. Don't prove yourself. Stay calm. Stay rooted. Because if it's real, she'll come back. Not to the man who broke under pressure, but to the man who mastered it. Comment below. I don't chase illusions. I hold the frame and let the truth reveal itself. Number 3. The subtle glitch that gives her away. She tries to act cool, collected, untouched. But no matter how well she plays the part, there's always a glitch. Something small, something fleeting that betrays her. It's the hesitation before she replies. The way her eyes linger a second too long. The subtle shift in her tone when your name comes up. It's not what she says. It's what she can't completely hide. Because no matter how much control she thinks she has over her image, emotions leak through the cracks. And those cracks, they're where the truth lives. Women are emotional masters. They can withhold words, manipulate timing, mirror disinterest. But the body doesn't lie. Micro-expressions, vocal shifts, nervous gestures, those are the glitches. And if you're truly present, you'll see them. But most men miss it. They're too focused on her words, too reactive to her cold behavior, too eager to interpret everything at face value. The Stoic man doesn't fall for that. He watches. He listens beyond the noise. He doesn't just observe, he perceives. And what he sees is this. Her calm is a performance. Her distance is intentional. But that single moment, when she forgets to guard her expression, when her curiosity shows, when her energy spikes at the sound of your voice, that's the giveaway. And once you notice it, you realize something powerful. She's not unaffected. She's just resisting the pull. And the more still you remain, the stronger that pull becomes. Here's the real game. The man who can spot the glitch without calling it out. The man who holds steady when she tries to pretend you don't matter. He's the one who flips the dynamic, because she knows you saw it, and you said nothing. You didn't react. You didn't chase. You just held frame. And now the silence feels different. Now she's the one wondering what you felt. That's how power shifts, subtly, silently, completely. Comment below. I see what she hides, but I say nothing. That's real power. Number 4. When silence speaks louder than confession. Sometimes the most powerful message is no message at all. She's waiting for a sign, a confession, an explanation, anything that tells her what she wants to hear, but won't ask for directly. That's where most men fail. They rush to clarify, to please, to pour their feelings out in the hope of gaining favor. But what they don't realize is, She's not listening to the words. She's feeling the energy, and nothing holds more weight than a man who chooses silence over self-sabotage. When you stay silent, it's not because you have nothing to say. It's because you know the value of holding back. Silence unsettles her, not because it's cruel, but because it forces her to face her own feelings. It makes her question her assumptions. Did he care? Was he hurt? Is he gone? Or just watching quietly? That uncertainty? It lingers, it echoes in her thoughts. It rewrites the narrative she tried to create. Women don't remember what you confessed under pressure. They remember the moments you said nothing, and they had to fill in the blanks. Because that blank space becomes emotional real estate. She invests thought, imagination, feeling into it. And every time she replays the moment in her head, your silence gets louder. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being composed. It's about choosing depth over desperation. When you master silence, you stop explaining yourself to people who already know what they did. You stop over-communicating with someone who's pulling away. You stop giving free access to your emotions. And instead, you let presence do the talking. A calm gaze, a still posture, an unshaken energy. That's how Stoicism shows up in attraction, not as apathy, but as mastery. She might never admit it, but the moment you stopped speaking was the moment she started thinking. Hard. Comment below. My silence speaks louder than words. She hears it, even when I say nothing. Number 5. The strength in stillness. In a world that rewards noise, movement, and constant reaction, the most powerful man is the one who does the opposite. The man who sits with his emotions instead of broadcasting them. The man who moves with intention, not impulse. The man who doesn't need to prove anything, because his stillness proves everything. Stillness is misunderstood. People mistake it for weakness, passivity, or indifference. But in reality, it's one of the most magnetic displays of strength a man can show. Because stillness requires control, patience, presence. Most men flinch at discomfort. When she pulls away, they chase. When she goes quiet, they overcompensate. When she tests them, they react. But not the Stoic man. He stays centered, not because he's unaffected, but because he understands. The moment you let someone else control your reaction, you give away your power. Stillness is restraint, and in that restraint, she feels something rare, certainty. She senses that you are rooted, not reaching, grounded, not grasping. While other men rush to decode her signals, explain themselves, or fight for attention, your stillness stands out. It becomes the tension she can't escape. Because stillness creates a void, and nature hates a void. She'll start to wonder. Why doesn't he react like the others? Does he not care? Or does he care more than I thought, but just refuses to chase? That curiosity keeps her locked in. And here's the paradox. The less you try to hold her, the more she feels your hold. This is not a game. It's not manipulation. It's masculine maturity. It's emotional sovereignty. From a Stoic lens, the strongest man is the one who governs himself before trying to lead anyone else. Stillness is not just power. It's proof that your peace is no longer up for negotiation. Comment below. My stillness is strength. I move only when it's time, never when I'm tested. Number 6. The psychological grip of stillness. Why she can't stop thinking about you. You don't have to say much. You don't have to text her all day. You don't even have to make a move. Because when you master stillness, you create a psychological grip far stronger than words or attention ever could. Why? Because the mind obsesses over what it can't fully grasp. And when you practice stillness, not coldness, not avoidance, but composed presence, you give her space to feel without giving her everything to figure you out. Stillness leaves blanks, and the human mind fills blanks with meaning, emotion, imagination. Think about it. She meets men all the time. Most of them over-explain. They try too hard. They reveal too much too fast, and it's predictable. But then she meets you, a man who doesn't flinch when she pulls away, doesn't flood her with affection when she goes silent, a man who holds his position, not to play games, but because he's already full. A man who doesn't act to prove himself, but lets his stillness do the talking. That's rare, and rare creates emotional gravity. She starts wondering, why doesn't he chase me? Is he not interested? Or is he just stronger than the rest? Why can't I stop thinking about someone who said so little? That grip is psychological, because when a man doesn't rush to fill every moment with effort, he forces her into feeling. And it's the feelings, not the facts, that keep her coming back in her mind. She replays moments. She second-guesses herself. She leans in, hoping to pull you closer. Why? Because you didn't push. Stillness becomes your advantage. And here's what Stoicism teaches. You don't need to control another person. You only need to master yourself. From that control, you radiate something she can't name, but she can't forget. You stay calm while others chase. You remain still while others react. And in that silence, she hears everything. Number 7, be the director, not the actor. How emotional distance creates magnetic presence. Most men show up like actors. They perform, they impress, they react. They're constantly adjusting their script to win approval. But a man who lives by Stoic principles does the opposite. He doesn't perform, he directs. When you're the actor, you're in the scene, moved by emotion, consumed by reaction, trying to make the moment work. But when you're the director, you see the bigger picture. You're not attached to every little shift in her tone or behavior. You're not swayed by her silence, her tests, or her games. That's emotional distance, not detachment from feeling, but mastery over reaction. Women don't remember the man who was always available, always trying, always explaining himself. They remember the man who had presence, but didn't push. The man who watched more than he spoke, who didn't rush to fix the scene. Because he understood, the more still he remained, the more she revealed. And here's where the psychology clicks. The person who remains emotionally distant holds the power of perception. She can feel when you're not lost in her emotional chaos. She notices when you don't collapse under the pressure to prove yourself. And that tension, that unspoken awareness that you're grounded, unmoved, unshaken, creates magnetic presence. Why? Because presence doesn't come from being loud or seen. It comes from being centered. It's the difference between the man who tries to impress and the one who knows he doesn't need to. So be the director. Watch. Observe. Let her come into your world rather than scrambling to enter hers. Let her feel the weight of your silence, the confidence in your gaze, the calm in your energy. That's what lingers. That's what captivates. Comment below. I'm not in the scene to impress. I'm directing the energy. I lead by presence, not performance. Number 8. Why stillness is seduction. The magnetic power of emotional presence. In a world addicted to noise, stillness becomes a rare form of seduction. Every day, people chase attention, validation, responses. They speak fast, text constantly, react instantly. But the man who can remain still, he disrupts that rhythm. He doesn't rush. He doesn't explain. He doesn't react. And that is magnetic. While most men panic at a woman's coldness, overcompensating with gifts, messages, or desperate gestures, the Stoic man holds. Not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't need to prove that he does. He understands something most never will. Seduction isn't in the effort. It's in the presence. True emotional presence doesn't come from performance. It comes from grounded confidence, the kind that doesn't flinch at silence. He sees through her games without announcing it. He recognizes her tests without needing to pass them. And here's the paradox. The less he gives away, the more she leans in. Because the mind craves resolution, and when she can't define him, she can't dismiss him. She becomes curious, then captivated. Why isn't he reacting? What is he thinking? Why can't I stop thinking about him? Stillness lingers. It echoes. It stays with her long after he's gone. It's not passivity, it's power. It's the conscious choice to let time reveal what force cannot. Stoicism teaches that the most powerful man is not the one who controls others, but the one who has mastered himself. And self-mastery, it's deeply seductive. So when she pulls away, he doesn't chase. When she gets cold, he doesn't heat up to compensate. He stays still, and in that stillness, she feels something deeper than words. Because while others try to be unforgettable by doing the most, he becomes unforgettable by doing the opposite. Number 9, let her fall for the man you don't advertise. Why mystery outlasts effort. She's used to men who reveal everything too soon. They talk too much, explain too much, give too much, all in the hope that openness will be rewarded with affection. But here's the truth. Women don't fall in love with effort. They fall in love with experience, with the way a man makes them feel without saying a word. And nothing creates that experience like mystery. The man who doesn't advertise himself, who doesn't rush to tell his whole story, who holds back just enough to be felt rather than explained. He's the one she remembers. Because when you leave something unsaid, a compliment you could have given but didn't, a thought you had but let her guess instead, you invite her into a space where desire lives, interpretation. You're not being cold, you're being deliberate. You're not hiding, you're leading. Mystery isn't about being distant, it's about creating depth. And that depth is what lingers in her mind long after the conversation ends. The man who shares everything up front, his backstory, his plans, his emotions, is easily replaced. But the man who gives her just enough to feel something without fully grasping it, he lives in her thoughts, because her imagination fills in the blanks. And imagination is far more seductive than information. From a Stoic lens, this isn't a game, it's mastery. It's choosing what to reveal and when. It's knowing that not everything deserves to be spoken, and the most powerful truths are often felt. So the next time you're tempted to say, "I miss you," pause. Let her feel your absence instead. Let her notice the silence. Let her wonder. Because when a man stops trying to prove himself, she finally gets to feel who he truly is. And that feeling, it's unforgettable. Comment below. Mystery is not a game, it's a standard. Number 10. When she can't read you, she can't replace you. The final key to becoming unforgettable. A man who becomes unforgettable isn't the loudest in the room. He's the quiet presence she can't ignore. He's the one who didn't rush to explain, didn't perform to impress, didn't chase to convince. He simply was. And in that stillness, he made space for her to wonder, to desire, to lean in. In a world addicted to instant connection and overexposure, the rarest thing is restraint. Everyone's trying to be seen, heard, and validated. But the man who holds something back, his story, his feelings, his next move, becomes magnetic. Not because he's playing games, but because he understands. He doesn't need to be figured out right away. She remembers him not because he pursued her, but because he didn't. Not because he made noise, but because his silence spoke louder. While others tried to impress her, he impressed her by not trying. This isn't aloofness, it's self-possession. The kind of strength that Stoic philosophy teaches. Live not in reaction, but with intention. Be ruled by virtue, not validation. And never give your energy to those who haven't earned access to your inner world. Let her earn you, not with games, but with consistency, with clarity, with effort. And in the meantime, you build, quietly, strongly, relentlessly. You build a life she'll have to qualify to enter, not one built on the hope that she'll stay. Because when you live like this, even if she walks away, she never truly forgets. Not because of what you gave her, but because of how you made her feel. Curious, challenged, moved. That kind of man doesn't chase. He becomes the standard. And once a woman experiences that standard, everything less feels hollow. Comment below. I became unforgettable the moment I stopped trying to be remembered. You may have started this video thinking it was about attraction, but what you've discovered is that it's really about presence. Women aren't drawn to the man who tries the hardest. They're drawn to the man who needs nothing but sees everything. Your eyes aren't just windows to the soul. They're mirrors, reflecting your control, your depth, your certainty. That kind of gaze triggers a shift, a quiet surrender. Not because you demanded it, but because you didn't need to.